Hello and welcome to this edition of Tigunia TipTok. My name is Dave Weiser, and today we're going to be talking about importing and exporting GL budget data in Business Central. Business Central doesn't really have a good tool for creating GL budget numbers, but once you do have those numbers created, you can import them from Excel or export a template to Excel to make the import into these budget data a lot easier. So we're going to go ahead and click on budget data because we want to walk through how to do that. You can see I already have a budget created, and in that budget I'm using two of my dimensions, my two global dimensions, department and customer group. I also have the ability to include 4 other dimensions if I want to, but in this case I'm just going to use the global ones. So if I go ahead and open that budget, you'll see that I've got all the columns and my accounts all set. I can go ahead if I want to and just start manually entering data into these cells, but it'll be much easier if I can export a format and then import the data directly into Business Central. So I'm going to go ahead and click on budget up here and go export to Excel. System's then going to ask me what my period start date is, how many periods I want, how long they're going to be. In this case I want 12 monthly periods that are 1 month each. It then asks you which departments or which dimensions you want to use. In this case I'm going to use the customer group and the department dimension. If I wanted to change that, I can click on the 3 dots here and you can see a list of the dimensions is shown, and I can click them on and off at will to include or exclude whatever I want. In this case I'm going to include them both. Also identified that I'm going to use my approved budget. That's the name for the budget. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. System's going to create an Excel file down here in the lower left hand corner. Go ahead and click on that, and that'll open up the Excel file. So let me bring that over here. So as you can see here, it created a column for each of the 12 periods that I want to budget for. It also created my account number and account name. It also added columns for the 2 dimensions. So I have my customer group and my department dimension code on the lines. You'll see that as I click on the cell, a drop-down box appears so that I can see the dimension values that are available for each of the dimensions that I've included in my budget spreadsheet. So in this case, I'm going to budget just my GL data, so I'm going to move that off to the side because I have an Excel spreadsheet already created with the budget data in it, and I want to point out a few things. One, you'll notice that when the spreadsheet first came in, there was only 1 row for sales. In this case, my 40200 account. There was only 1 line for that. But since I have multiple dimension combinations that I want to provide budgets for, I had to copy that row and add additional rows for that account number so that I can include all the different dimension combinations. So this is one of those gotchas. If you want to budget by a number of dimension combinations, you're going to have a lot of different rows in here. So you might take that into consideration when you're determining which dimensions you want to use for budgeting. In this case, all of my sales are going to my sales department, so that's fine. But they're all going to different customer groups, so I want to budget accordingly and add lines for those different departments or different customer groups. So my sales, my cost of material, cost of labor, I also want to budget those. You will also notice that I'm including in here the natural sign for each of the accounts. So because sales are naturally credit entries, I want to enter those as negative numbers. That way they flow a lot easier onto your account schedules when you're doing analysis with actual results. Down here in the expenses, you'll also notice that while I'm not using my customer group dimension, I am using my department dimension, so I had to add a number of rows, additional rows for each of the accounts so that I could capture the budget for each of those different department values. So with that in place, with only those accounts, I can go ahead and save that. Now when I come over here to Business Central again, I can go to budgets and I can import that data. So what budget name am I importing into? Also, do I want to replace the entries that are currently in that budget, or do I want to add the entries to that? So this comes into place when you're first loading it. Maybe when you're first loading the budget, you want to replace the entries, but then you want to add additional entries later on. The nice thing about it is that if you have different departments, you can use that Excel format and send that same format out to different departments and allow them budget their numbers. And then you can import those as needed from the different department files, and therefore you can just add those entries every time you do that. You can also create what your description is for your budget import. Go ahead and click OK. The system will then ask you to choose the file. So we're going to go ahead and go to our desktop and go to the budget import. It'll go ahead and read that data into the system. Are you sure you want to replace the entries? Go ahead and click yes. And the system will now import everything with the appropriate dimensions. So I'll go ahead and click OK when it says I'm done. You can see now all of my budgets are entered. If I go ahead and click on one of those and drill into that, you'll see that I have the various entries with the various dimensions sets in there already budgeted. Now I can go ahead and use this budget in my account schedules or other GL comparative analysis, and it makes it very easy to use that data once you've imported it. So hopefully you found this helpful to be able to bring budget data into Business Central from Excel. However you use your system to determine what those budget numbers, this is a great tool for bringing that information into Business Central. Thanks for listening today. If you have any questions about this or any other topic, go ahead and reach out to us here at Tigunia, and we'll be happy to work with you on any of the questions or issues that you might have. Have a good day.